I saw the emails from our friend and colleague, Mr. Hopewell, yesterday,
Yeah.
uh, but just wanted to make sure that he wasn't planning on attending due to the fact that he got back from vacation and is not feeling the best.
He texted me this morning. He's still under the weather, so he
Okay.
will not be here.
All right, then I say you just go.
All right. Well, welcome. I hope everybody's enjoying what looks to be nice weather. And I understand Friday we could be at 90 degrees, so keep cool. So you've all got a copy of the agenda. Sydney, I'm sure we don't have quorum yet, so we can't really approve the minutes, I would think.
That is correct. I will put it in the chat as soon as we do.
Okay. So many of you probably went to the talent assessment summit. So we're open for some comments here and some feedback as to what you all thought of that. Don't all talk at once. Tony, you were there in the back. I saw you. I shook your hand. What were your thoughts about the conference? You have to turn your speaker or your microphone on.
That's right. I just learned from you. You have to turn things on.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. There was great breakout sessions, lots of good information. It's fun to see kind of from that state level perspective what all's happening around the state. And of course, I had a lot of fun in the youth breakout, and that's transitioned into a program we're going to try to launch this summer. We're waiting to hear this week or next if we get the summer funding money to do a construction program.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Anybody else have something? Otherwise, I'm going to start calling on people.
I thought it was great too, Tom. I really appreciated the keynote speakers and the ones that helped, to set the stage and align people's thoughts. And then I felt like the breakout sessions just really added to that and allowed people to take a deeper dive in areas that they were interested in. I saw a variety of different sessions, and I found each one of them were very valuable and appreciated all the work that went into it. Thank you.
Stacy, were you there? No? Oh, you missed it.
I did miss it.
Beth, you were at the conference, weren't you? Wiggum. You weren't. I know Deb Mum Hill was there. Deb, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was, I didn't get to go to a lot of sessions because I ended up facilitating 2 data and policy sessions, but the keynotes are fantastic. I sat through I was just data policy all around because I listened to the first one as well. And, we ended up, Todd was really working on pulling everybody that he pulled from out of state and getting them into specific sessions. And I ran the last one on Wednesday morning with Josh from Alabama, and Ann Mercereau sat in on that session. Some big funders sat in on that session. And basically they all came back and said, gosh darn it, Alabama is outpacing Oregon. We got to get our act together. They are triangulating data. They are running 200 apprenticeships. I mean, they have it pulled together, and it's coming from an industry side who is saying, Mercedes-Benz, Google, we're going to put all of these, 600, 1,000 jobs in Alabama, but you got to help us develop the talent of people who are going to fill those jobs. And that's all it took from, they call her Mama Boss Ivy. Kay Ivey is their governor, Mama Boss, and she was able to fund it. She was able to pull the legislation together around it, and she was able to then implement it down into the higher education, post-secondary, and K-12 sectors. So it was fun. Learned a lot, but I can tell you there was some competitive people in that last session who said, we've got to get our act together. So there's a little bit of political will there.
So I just saw Nate McCoy on there. Nate, I wanted to welcome you to the group. I'm glad you were able to join us, Dave. Could you just give us a few words and tell us a little bit about your organization?
Yeah, appreciate you, Tom. Sorry I'm in my car and couldn't be in a safe space to kind of greet everybody, but I pulled over. But happy to be at this table, very new to this table, but I'm Nate McCoy, the president and CEO of the Oregon chapter of the National Association of Minority Contractors. Very long-winded for NAMAC Oregon. A lot like AGC, if you're familiar with AGC Oregon. We kind of try to own the construction industry and design industries, if you will, for people of color. And so very new to this group, but a couple of folks have heard me speak loud and clear around inclusion and equity. And I feel like this is a good time. As I heard, I think Deb say that some other states are outpacing us in Oregon. We agree, and we see that across the nation with our chapters. And we want to see Oregon, knowing NAMAC is the biggest of all of our NAMAC chapters across the U.S. in Oregon. We've got a big job to do in working with our workforce providers and you all. So would love to stay a part of this group, but figure out how we can build more of those programs that I think we were just discussing a minute ago. So thank you for having me here, Tom, and looking forward to meeting others on the call.
Thanks, Nate, and we appreciate you being here.
Hey, Nate, it's Frosty. You guys,
Hey.
some of you might have seen Nate at the Talent Summit. He was there as well on one of the panels. So Nate and I knew each other before during my time at AGC, and it was great to reconnect. We met last week and had an awesome meeting, and going to do some networking and hopefully get before his members to talk about employability skills.
Todd, anything you want to add to the conversation? I know you guys worked really hard to put that on, so we appreciate it. You got to turn on your microphone.
That's three of us. And it's kind of like TQ since it's Tom, Tony, and Todd. Just an observation. So I'll stop trying to be funny. I just, thank you all for your kind comments. And Clay's sitting next to me here in our office, and big shout out to Clay. He did a ton of work. People have been asking me what I think, and I keep saying it doesn't really matter what I think. What matters is what everybody that attended thought. And so far, we've gotten like best ever reviews and comments and feedback on the programming. You know, we were pretty down in the weeds and the details. So there were a few things that went a little bit south, and there's always some Eeyores that raise their head and, complain about things. But overall, I think our feedback has been very positive. And yes, Deb, you did a lot for us, and we really appreciate Deb Mumhill for her passion around not only this committee and the STEM world in Oregon, but for everything she does for the WTDB and Workforce and Talent Development. And thanks to you, Nate, for being part of that breakout session with Chris Latimer at Knife River and with Steve Johnson. I heard good things about that. Appreciate your leadership. Tony, I'm glad you got to conduct some business there. That was great to hear. You and I talked about it then and later, and that's really exciting. And I heard good things about the EES breakout as well. So thanks, Sherry and Frosty, for your efforts there. And I think I got everybody. If I didn't, I'm sorry. But yeah, I guess the other thing is it went so well. A couple of folks, including Duncan and Kyle over at OBC, were wondering, should we do this every year as opposed to every other year? So those conversations are happening. I think there'll be many more conversations in the next several months about, hey, should we do 2 days? Should we do more than 2 days? Should we go back to 1 day? So I think I guess the point is fostered a lot of conversations and good thinking in terms of, wow, that was great. What can we do to make it better next time?
Anybody have any suggestions for him, just so we can give him a little feedback?
If I could, Tom,
Yeah.
I like Todd, I appreciated the setting. I would love to see something similar done in Portland, Oregon, because I feel like I would have loved to have more of my constituency there, but it's hard when a lot of contractors of color are based in Portland, and they can't get up to Salem pretty often. So I would love to just see if that's even a potential option. I'd love to help logistically help Todd and whoever, because I definitely want the critical masses to be in these kind of events. But it was very well attended, and I loved it.
Thanks, Nate. And just so you know, this is our 4th Talent Summit. This is the first one we ever had in Salem. All the 3 previous have been at the Oregon Convention Center in Portland.
Okay, got it.
I mean, full disclosure and transparency as a public servant. I mean, the reason we picked Salem had a lot to do with the fact that it was less expensive, and we got to go with the, competitive, RFP process. So, thanks for that feedback, though. I really appreciate it. And it's kind of, a conundrum, because if we have it in Portland, of course, to your point, we capture folks that are there that, find it difficult to make it down to Salem. Yes. And then the opposite is true. If we have in Salem, what you said transpires. So yeah, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
And Todd, I think if you have data, somebody, I think it was Sherry, had people raise their hand in her opening of like, who's from education, who's from industry. I don't know if you were able to capture that in your registrations, but that would be interesting. I would love to have seen more legislators there and more industry leaders. And now that was my first talent summit ever, I think like Oregon STEM can be a partner, and of course, along with Kyle and Duncan, that we can really start to guide people, like what is it the value that you're going to get, what is the information that's going to be shared, and we can start to guide people toward attending it. But legislators, don't know how you get them there, but would be great if we could figure that one out.
Yeah, that's really good, Deb. Thanks for that. And yes, we do have data on who attended, so we can share that with folks. And yeah, you and I and Clay, had similar thoughts in terms of it would have, been nice to see a few more legislators and business folks attend. But overall, we set an attendance record. We had over 500 registrations, and was it like 410 people show up? And our no-show rate was the lowest it's ever been, just over 20%. So we were pretty pleased with those stats, Deb. And yeah, like I said, we'll let you know on the data for the audience.
And just wanted to note that Matt had a comment on maybe getting the dates out a little bit early so that people can confirm their commitments. Sherry, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was curious. So I went to a conference one time that Devin from Solid Forum did, and he had a couple of some sessions where it was a topic session and it was facilitated. So I was wondering maybe we could do something like that with a couple of the sessions where it's not really someone presenting, it's just people saying, this is a topic that's really important to me. I really want to come and hear what other people have to say and maybe provide my own thoughts on it. Anyway, I think a couple of those sessions could be really good, and he did that a couple years, and it was pretty fantastic. I didn't know if it would really work, but it was amazing. I think we might be able to get some industry partners there that may be like, I'm not sure which thing I'm going to, but I know there's a topic that is of interest to me. So that's just my thought on that.
Great. Anything else anybody wants to add? We're going to keep this thing moving today because we want to get to that last item on the agenda, which is kind of a conversation on what's next. So Frosty, you're up on Oregon employability skills. If you'd like to talk a little bit about where you're at, what you're doing.
Yep. So Sherry and I are going to split this time. I'll be quick. Thanks to Beth for sharing out navigator information. We're going to be pulling the navigators in to help us do some outreach with the business and industry side, contacts that they might have, things that we can do to follow up on that. I don't know, you sent me what, 12 spreadsheets or something like that, Beth. I'm still trying to like winnow those down, like, oh, I don't know what's going to work for us and what's not, but lots of contacts across the state, that's for sure. And then Tom and I are going to meet tomorrow. Beth's going to have an open session for the navigators. So we're going to meet tomorrow and follow up a little more with them on how they can be relevant to this whole process. So looking forward to that. Reaching out to associations, that's one of the big things that we have going on right now. That's where I'm moving my energies to. So an ask of you is if you're involved with associations, I'd love to have some contact information so that we can present to larger groups about employability skills and not so much the one-offs. Those are important, but really we want to get this broadcast as far and wide as we can. So any associations you're involved with, thanks to Nate, he's my first guinea pig on this, and looking forward to presenting with his group next month. And then another ask that I have is we'd like to, I've written an article, but if anyone has connections with publications like Portland Business Journal or I don't know, Willamette Week, I'm just saying that because they seem to be popping into my newsfeed a lot lately. So if you have any connections with any media outlets that we can use to get some of the information out about what's going on in the world of employability skills and workforce development, I would love to have those contacts, and I will throw my email address into the chat.
The one thing I'd like to
Thanks,
add
Sherry.
to what Frosty just said is that she is also building a database. So if you have employers that you're working with that have expressed interest in employability skills, then we'd like to at least get them documented, because ultimately this is going to become a talking tool to be able to talk to legislature as we start to look at the session coming forward. So Sherry, you're up.
Yeah,
Todd
so
has his hand up.
Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
a second, Sherry. Todd has his hand up. Maybe he just forgot to put it down.
No, thank you, Frosty. I had two things. One, would it be helpful? I don't have, authority, or I can't promise anything. But I'm happy to connect you, Frosty, to the communications director here at the HEC to at least have a email back and forth to see if it might be a possibility to get something in the regular HEC newsletter. I wonder if the same thing might be a good strategy with ODE and OED, the employment department. Maybe folks at DHS and even Business Oregon as well. The more you try, the more you'll probably get. Just food for thought, and let me know. I'm happy to help if you want me to.
Absolutely. That would be great.
Okay, great.
I
The other
noticed
question I
that,
had for you, Frosty, was I was just curious on how the work toward kind of a big deliverable is for this EES work or OES work in terms of the report that's due in December. How are things coming along with that?
Well, I told Tom it's sort of like my brain's sort of like a pop can in a dryer. There are things rattling around in there, and then eventually it will come together. It's making a lot of noise right now, but it will eventually come together. I have several anecdotes. I took a lot of notes at the Talent Summit, quotable quotes, and reading through the May 2024 report that came out and just trying to wrap my head around all of the different things that are in those reports and the needs, and then combining that with the contacts that you can make between now and say August, and then that will all coalesce. But definitely it's on my radar.
yeah, Todd, we're driving towards that completion so that we can do that. So a lot of it is data driven at this point, trying to find out who all the supporting actors are in this so that we can document them all and be able to relate in that document just exactly what the involvement is not only in the school systems, but also within employers. The other thing I noticed that Deb put a contact there for K2, and I appreciate that, Deb. And Frosty, you can maybe follow up with that contact.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Sherry, you're on.
Yeah, so I actually put a document inside of the chat box for y'all because you can see there's a lot going on. So I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to highlight it. We've got some contracts out right now for expressive learning. That's really to help students all the way down to the life skills level be able to work within the curriculum in a variety of ways. We've got some more videos coming in Spanish and Russian for families and caregivers. We've got another contract out to align some library books and activities with the skills so that families and caregivers can participate. We've got a Canvas LMS being produced. We've got a Google Classroom course being produced. We've got our final video projects there. Contracts that have just come in are academic assessments and our new learner badge assessments. Ongoing support, we have the industry packets and posters that have been ordered. Those will be going out as soon as we get them. And again, as Frosty mentioned, she's doing a lot of that work, as well as the rollout support from the ESDs and the Career Connected Navigators and CTE educators. They're all on board and on deck getting things out. We're willing to get things out to their folks as soon as we get those. Finally, are working out on the Badger implementation at a district level. That's going well. Also, I sent out something to everyone I have trained asking for feedback. I sent a survey out to understand who's using it, who's planning to use it, and those kinds of things. So I'll be giving that information to Frosty. I'm doing about 8 to 10 trainings per week, which is just crazy. Expanded work. I spent some time with some more voc rehab folks, some more pre-its folks this week. Made a wonderful contact with the Umatilla tribes, and we're going to be doing some video content with them, as well as they are really excited to infuse this in their education and workforce development. We had some contacts through Juan, and Amy was also there, called her today, with the Construction Alliance and SEDCOR, so they are really excited. And we're going to be doing some follow-up work with them. And if anybody wants any industry packets, posters, things like that, I've got my email on that. Again, it's in the chat for y'all. And so I will leave it there unless anyone has any questions.
Questions from the group? Everybody's quiet. Thanks, Sherry.
Sherry,
Go ahead.
this is Martha. Is there
Yeah.
any social media campaign planned for visibility of the logo?
Well, that is a really great question. I'm going to be turning my attention a little bit more to some of that social media campaign stuff in July. I've got a group I'm going to be meeting with to look at that. So I would love to connect with you later to see kind of what your thoughts are on it, to include that in our planning process in July.
Oh, I don't necessarily need to be part of it, but I think that would establish a connection with industry. There's more familiarity with the logo, the more they see it.
I think with
And you're aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the posters and stuff that we're going to be taking out, and then those posters, they're 24 by 36, and they say we value organ employability skills. Those will be going into some of the industry buildings, but we are trying our best, at least through July, to do this very hands-on and so that's why I've really got a lot of people at the ESDs, as Frosty mentioned, the Career Connected Learning Navigators, taking these packets out in person to these companies so that we understand if we're meeting their needs, what things that they need from us and so forth. So I think we're going to see a lot of that development happen during that period of time.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah.
Face-to-face is always number one.
Deb,
Nice.
you have something? You have your hand up. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I'd have,
There you
you got to remind me to unmute, take my hand down, all those things. Great job, Sherry, as always. It's just so fun to look at the progress that you've done across this. My previous call was Career Connect Oregon. So are they building out a page for you? Because this is such an incredible resource, thanks to Beth Mullenkamp, who has funded it, and others who have guided this work. It's beautiful. And I'm going to stop building out pages on the Oregon STEM website and start pushing everything to Career Connect. So is this the central, I mean, let's help you. Is this going to be like the
Yes, it's
central
there.
source hub for you?
Yeah, so we have a community of practice on that website that's being developed out, and we are listed in their resources. There's direct movement from their resource to our resource. We work very carefully with them. I did also forget to mention that in 2 weeks, we'll also have a LinkedIn for Oregon employability skills, and we'll use that also to connect with industry. I have just way too many things going on.
Yeah, no, I just think we should all focus on maybe an awareness campaign to a one-stop shopping resource for educators,
agree.
students, families, and industry. And I think this could be it. So for what that's worth, we can put that at the bottom of our agenda of what are we going to work on and advocate for. But good job.
And Deb, I'll circle back with you because I'm also doing the Career Connected Learning course. That's my other project that is all tying those things together. So yeah, absolutely. We got to be pushing everything in that one direction to go out from that direction.
Yes.
Well, great. Any other comments or questions? Well, I'm going to move it right along then if I don't hear anything. The next up is conversation about what's next. I want to remind everybody that this is the Work Readiness Committee, which means there's been a lot of focus on the employability skills, and obviously a lot of movement. Sherry's done a lot of work. Jenny's done a lot of work to create a viable product over the last few years. But we kind of want to get a vision for what's coming up, what you guys are thinking about. Deb, I know that you're going to want to talk about data. So anytime you want to add that in there, but seriously, what are some of the goals or objectives you guys would like to see the committee work on as we move forward?
I think
ahead.
reaching out to the employers and continuing to get them on board should be one of the key focal points, because we're going to do all this work at high levels, at ground level. Things are going to be happening. I'd love to see it where if kids go through a program and meet a credential or some sort of completion standard, that employers would note that because OES was a part of that, there is a standard that's being reached, right? And so they're more apt to maybe take that young person in for an interview, or work with us in terms of trying to pipeline some kids to their industry starting points and so forth.
Tony, thanks for saying that. In our industry packet, one of the things that we have in there is a letter of support that we're asking them to put on their letterhead and send back to us. And we are going to be sending in an IRC application at the end of June. So we need as many people as we can to get us those letters of support. So anything you can do to, give Frosty and I help in getting that stuff out is fantastic. I'm mainly focused on the educators that are going out and working with the folks they're already connected with. And then Frosty is really focused on those people that maybe have not heard about the initiative.
Again, what other things are you hearing out there that you think would aid in whatever workforce readiness could be doing? Appreciate the comment, Tony, about really kind of tying a bow on this thing and keeping the momentum going forward. Let's see, we've got Juan, you got your hand up.
Yeah, right now on the organ employability skills, I'm helping with the video side of it. And something that comes to my mind, like as I'm thinking about that, thinking about the future, and it's something I've already kind of been talking about for a while, is the story of organ employability skills. I feel like when we talk about social media, we talk about media, we talk about all of that. I think getting this story, and like what Sherry's saying about getting it out there further, broadcasting further, I really do. I would like to see us kind of like really think about like how are we going to integrate that and make that sustainable, because that's a big ask of people, but there is a lot of stories that need to be shared in order for us to validate everything we're saying, right? I mean, that's where the data comes in, and yes, we're getting it from the data, but I also feel like the human aspect of it needs to stay alive, because when I see it in person and I see the way it's affecting people's lives, that's what's going to make the massive change. And that's what's going to allow it to become sustainable, at least from my perspective on it. And I, I find myself like, man, how do we tell the story on a bigger level? Like, how do we get this in front of, like you said, legislative? How do we get the support? Because I mean, there's a lot of support already, but it's like, how do we make it sustainable? How do we, I mean, we're kind of all doing it in our own little lanes and showing advocacy and doing that. But there's so much work in regards to getting testimonies from teachers, getting testimonies from students who are actually doing this, but not just students, people who are in the work world that are coming on and learning about the employability skills and how it's changing their life. And and then also from the businesses who are involved, right? I think we have an obligation to share the business's story as well. I mean, they're coming in and helping and supporting, and industries there. I mean, we're doing our best in regards to capturing this and integrating the companies into the curriculum. But how do we give back to the companies who are helping as well? That's, so that's where my mind is.
Okay, thank you. Todd, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Tom. Three things I guess I just wanted to toss out there for folks to explore and think about in answer to your question about what's next in addition to the work that we've done on essential employability skills. One thing that comes to mind, and I'm glad Shelley Hodgson is here because she'll probably have some thoughts about this, but one of the main reasons, a key reason for us broadening the scope of this committee, as I've said several times now, to include other topics under that workforce readiness umbrella, was a conversation that just came back to me that Shali and I had about learning employer records, LERs. And when you mentioned, Deb, the state of Alabama at the Talent Summit, as you and I both know, and others as well now, Alabama is doing LERs and doing a great job of it. And so I wonder about that. It seemed like it was a little early to the conversation, the last go around. That said, I think there was interest from a number of employers in those meetings that we convened, that some of you were a part of. So there's number one. Number two is, of course, I don't want to steal your thunder, Deb, but around the opportunities to develop and invest in tools for students and educators and the business community, that system writ large, that can help us do a better job of developing work readiness and making decisions based on better data, real-time data, valuable data. And then I think the third thing that came to mind is an email that some of us received from our friend and colleague, Jim Taylor, a few days ago, saying, and I quote, "I truly believe that we need to begin sharing and discussing the what's next possibilities when it comes to Team Oregon Build, and to influencing opportunities at the middle, high, and community college and broad workforce level. Team Oregon Build is kicking off new work and is setting the bar higher for engaging sector strategies with the needs across the state, all inside the construct and systems of Career Connected Learning and the Career Connected Learning Resource Hub. Additionally, they're taking the awareness of growing career fields in disaster, crisis readiness, response, recovery, and resilience." So my response, and I copied Tom and Charlie and Ian Mercer, chair of the State Workforce Board, and a few other folks, Clay included, was, hey, we have this great table already set right here with all of you great thinkers. And we're talking about what's next. Maybe there's an opportunity to explore possibilities around integrating a person like Jim as a representative of that Team Oregon build, similar to what you're doing, Sherry, with OES, to have a voice at the table. So those are my three things I wanted to toss out there. Thanks for the time, Tom.
Okay. Nate, your hand's been up for a long time. I hope it's not worn out.
No, it's all good. Great conversation. I want to kind of underscore what I heard Juan say and a little bit of Todd. What I would love to kind of learn, since I'm new to this group too, is like, what's this group's efforts around construction on public related projects? I just can't tell you how often we leave behind big nuggets. And I'm at the table appointed by the governor to work with Intel, to work with ODOT on all these huge projects you all know about. And I'm not sure if we're really crafting the workforce agenda that meets not only big companies, but small companies' needs for hiring communities of color in a way that I don't think any workforce system in Oregon really does. And so I would love to really see, because I think the programming I'm hearing that I talked to Frosty about would be huge if public agencies could also endorse these kind of programs. They got plenty of money, because it's one thing to do outreach and provide resources in communities. And it's another thing to ask small businesses to take on young people when they have a whole lot of things that may need more resources and money to support. And so, I mean, I just feel like we got to think about how do we take advantage of money already on the table and coupling it with public projects that affordable housing being another one. Like, I mean, these are things the governor's already talking about. And I want to help you all connect the dots, because many of our 250 contractors build a lot of that work. And they call me often. And we now just stood up workforce navigation at NAMAC, because we don't have enough Nates to go in the community and figure out who's looking for a job. So that's why Frosty invited me here, because I want to replicate the system or support the system we want to create and be the liaison in communities of color. So I guess I'm just saying, is that a big push, is looking at public agency projects that really meet a lot of the stuff I've been hearing us talking about? Because that could really add a lot of value to real workforce readiness with projects ready to go in the next year or so.
I appreciate that, Nate. My professional background before this was about 30 years in construction. So I had never even thought about using that public agency angle. And I think that's a great idea.
Well, let me work with you, Tom. I think I remember you from my earlier years in construction, but I'd love to work with you on that, and anybody else on this call, including Juan.
Great. Appreciate it, Nate. Deb, do you have a comment?
Yeah, yes to all the above. And Nate, I think you're right. The infrastructure money, the broadband, there is so much federal and now state funds put towards this, but nobody's really figuring out how to build those into work-based learning experiences for emerging talent to feed them into these pathways. And so I don't know. I mean, I think the question is back to Todd, Tom, and Charlie. Is that a call? Is that something that we would look at as part of the Workforce Readiness Advisory Committee here? I think we would benefit from building a strategy, a strategic plan of where do we want to be? Do we want to be looking at reskilling, in the current workforce and reskilling them up? Do we want to be in that K-12 space? Do we want to be in the P-20 space? And then pick a couple of strategies that we want to build out. I listened into the Team Oregon Build roadshow last night. I mean, Jim Taylor's amazing. It is incredible. It is a canned kit. They looked at all the barriers. A teacher just orders a kit. It is ready to go. They've got the costing around it. So it's a perfect example of what Todd was talking about, those sector strategies and constructs that this committee could be looking at and clustering and then mapping it back to the state, these big public projects, and thinking how we can help and support the system from the education side, and then maybe making those recommendations and building. It's not always data, Tom. It's data is a platform. So like, what is the software, the platform for industry to then really see where they can get connected, rather than calling up high school by high school, introducing themselves, who can I talk to? I'm XYZ company. That's our model right now in Oregon, or we try to go to, a Technology Association of Oregon or some kind of association, and we're doing it one-off. So if we can get to a platform then, and whatever that platform is, for industry to see what are the CTE programs of study, what are the certifications, what are students indicating as their pathway interest, and giving them that data platform to look at, we would then be able to connect the dots. So that's a lot. But yes, I think there's so much opportunity for this committee to kind of just step back and maybe take a couple of months. I think it's going to take us being all in the room together to list what are the strategies, what are out there, and then what do we want to focus on, and where do we think we can add value. And I just don't think we're going to get it done in a monthly Zoom meeting. I think we're going to have to decide to kind of set some time aside to do that.
I would agree with that. Sherry, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I kind of want to echo what Deb is saying, but only with one little caveat, that I think we really need to study this idea of what other states are doing. As you guys know, I tried to do a platform, unfortunately, at the same time as COVID. So I don't think it's a fair assessment to look at anything that was happening during COVID. But I still believe in that strategy of being able to quantify the data, make something simple for industry partners to see what's going on. But even if you dismiss COVID, the hard part is getting all of the people to work together, right? The hard part is bringing industry and education together. So I'm going to throw that out there, Deb, and say, if you have any time this summer, maybe you and I could look at how are regions doing this successfully, and what did they learn about how to bring these people together and make this work? Because I think we need to kind of back up. I wish I had learned more about that in the beginning. I might have had a little bit more success.
That's really good, Sherry, and it makes me think, sort of blending what you and Deb said. Well, first a comment. Charlie and Tom, a few months ago, as Deb knows, and many of you probably remember, but just a reminder, tried to move us into strategic planning, and we just didn't get there. I think that with the Octave Conference, the Talent Summit, and various other demands on people's times, we just didn't get there. So thanks for resurfacing that, Deb. I think that's spot on. I think the other thing to mention here in terms of leveraging and sort of back to what Nate touched on, and let's use what we already have to build off of. I think there's an opportunity probably here for us to better partner with, at the local level, next gen sector partnership work that the local boards are leading and really leaning into as of late, due to investment in particular from Future Ready Oregon. And then also the three big consortia, and developing an already developed consortia work that's happening under Future Ready in healthcare, manufacturing, and technology. But I think there's probably a huge opportunity for us to talk about the possibilities with Brooke Brownlee and Portland General Electric and the work that they're doing in the clean energy space with that consortium, because I kind of think out in front of all the others and leading the way. And then let's not forget at all the good work that Steve Johnson is doing in his construction sector work as well. So I think you're right, Deb. I think we need some time, a retreat, facilitated discussion to come up with a battle plan that's more focused, intentional, and doesn't try to solve the world in one day and be everything to everybody, but has a short list that we know if we go after those things and accomplish those things, we'll have impact collectively.
Can I add that as we're going out and talking about organ employability skills with our industry packets, I want to keep it not, fairly simple, but I also think there's an opportunity for us to understand from industry, if we're going to go out and have a conversation, maybe we need to be asking what else do you need? What's next? What's the big topic on your list? And so maybe we can add that in to those conversations. And it might be muddy what we get back, but I still think it's worth asking and then just writing down what people tell us and reporting it back.
Yeah, I like that, Sherry. I think that, obviously, one of the things practically that we could do is ask the consortia under Future Ready, ask Brooke Brownlee, hey, can we get some airtime to come and share the work of the Workforce Readiness Committee, some of what we've already done. And then we're also really here to try and capture a download from all of you leaders in terms of what we might consider that would be of value and meet your needs as a consortium.
A lot on the table. I need to take a nap now. Anybody else have something to add? This has been a great conversation so far. Appreciate all the input.
Oh, well, I thought you were taking a nap because you were bored. I'm glad to hear that you qualified that with a great conversation comment, Tom.
I'm overwhelmed. Let's put it that way. There's a lot to do.
Tom, not to overwhelm you, but I
Yeah,
almost
you are.
reserved I almost reserved this comment, but I'm just curious what other minds would say to this. In the state of Oregon, y'all all know we get taxed heavily. Has there ever been an idea of a tax credit for this employability program that we could ask our legislature to support? Because I agree with what Juan said earlier. Some of my group would not look at this program as valuable at the moment. Not that they don't care about all the employability skills, but if they have to retrain people or train people in a way that's not traditional, that's time lost and money lost in their business. And I just want to make sure if people go this route, that there's some honoring from our public dollars that people are investing in these kind of great programs and getting a tax credit in return. So I'm just wondering if that's even been propped up or not.
That hasn't, but it does remind me of some old federal programs I remember where they used to actually subsidize part of the wage in order to encourage that, bringing somebody new in and get them trained and skilled to be able to do the job. That either a credit, either way, Nate, either money in the pocket of the employer or a credit. Money in the pocket of the employer speaks really loud, though.
You're right.
Yeah, because to kind of amplify what Nate's saying there, it's like, if we could show more data on like sustaining or retention for the employer, right? Where we've shown that going through the organ employability skills has led to retention. Now, all of a sudden, we're speaking to the business, right? The industry is going to go, oh, well, I want to retain people because I'm having a hard time keeping people or whatever it be, right? Or, I go out and hire somebody, they come in, I train them, and then they leave and go somewhere else because they're pursuing something else. So if it can speak to retention, I would agree with what Nate's saying there. There's an incentive now for industry to take it on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd say retention and advancement.
I'm writing.
If it got said earlier in the meeting, when we were sort of debriefing on the talent summit, apologies, I missed it, but just to raise this up and flag it, and we would have heard about it if Charlie would have been here for sure, because I think he was really excited about the panel discussion of agency leaders that he led around employability skills. So Charlie did a lot of outreach on his lonesome to not only the folks that were on stage with him to get them to come together and rally and support and advocate for EES their perch. But Charlie's also done a lot of work in reaching out to OBI. So I'm not privy to those conversations, nor can I be, but I think that Nate, what you had to say, I think resonate well with Charlie.
All right, well, I want to be respectful of your time, and we are coming up on the hour. Is there anything else anybody would like to add before we kind of close it down?
I think you need to go back to your meeting minutes, Tom, because we got quorum and then you didn't get that done, right?
Oh, do we have quorum? I missed that in the,
So,
No, we do not have quorum.
oh,
that's what
okay.
that's what I thought.
All right, sorry. I thought I heard.
That's okay.
something
We can
wrong.
kick it to the next meeting.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. We've done it more than once. All right. I'm going to thank you all for your participation today. I appreciate a lot of good thoughts and ideas. And you've got our committee's work lined out for us now for the next 5 years. We'll just have to do what Deb says is let's pick the hot items and move on. So anyway, again, thank you very much for all showing up today, and we will see you next time.